Well, congratulations on the film. I've got to say, I really enjoyed it. It's something completely different, I've got to say.
Thank you.
Until now, you've been mainly a writer, and this is your feature debut. But I believe you actually made a first attempt at directing a feature film about 15 years ago.
I did, yes. I don't know how you
What happened?
found that out, but
I
I
have my
was
ways.
I had a film again that I had written, and there were a couple of producers who got hold of it and loved it and wanted to make it. They had a slate of films that they were making, all based out of Northern Ireland. And we got very close. We got up to sort of about 2 weeks before we were meant to be shooting. So I went through a lot of the development process with it, a lot of the casting process. And at the last minute, it was very time dependent because we needed to shoot sort of in summer. And as summer started to pass, the opportunities became more limited, and we were trying to cast it. And the distributor, as I remember, the American distributor had a say over who we could cast, and were being quite difficult. I mean, some of the names they were rejecting seemed extraordinary to me, and particularly in retrospect, because some of them went on to have extraordinary, stellar careers. So it was just a very frustrating experience, really, in the end, because as we reached September, one day the producer came in to me and said, "Listen, the time has passed, the window is closed. Let's start again, in March of next year. Let's set it up again." And then next year was the financial crash, so everything sort of fell apart.
Oh gosh!
So
So
it was a
you went
real.
down the writing route instead.
Well, I did. I was already down the writing route, but it was always my intention. I think as a writer in the film business, it can be wonderful, and some of the people you work with are wonderful. But ultimately, what you write is not what you see on the screen. And if you really want control over what's going to be on the screen, if it's important to you, and if you write things that are very much from the heart, then you do want that. And um, you will always have a sense of frustration looking at something and thinking that's not how I would have done it. Or I would anyway. Maybe some writers can divorce themselves entirely, but it's very director-led medium, filmmaking, and I think if you really want to, if you have stories you want to tell and you want to tell them in a particular way, ultimately you have to direct them too. So that was always at the back of my mind, but I thought the way that I would do that is by having a string of successes as a writer. And then ultimately, when that string of successes doesn't come, because people, as in that example I just gave, you try and make a film and it collapses at the last minute. That happens a few times, and then all of a sudden you're put in the position and you say, okay, the next one, I'm going to do it myself. And I need a project that is doable on that basis, and then I'll do it myself. And that will be my introduction to being a writer director, and so that's how that came
So
about.
that
But I think
is that what happened with the score?
the
Did you
score
write
was
the
written
score as well?
intentionally as a project for me to direct, and
Right.
always from the outset that was the plan, and that's why it's on the scale that it's on, and it was very deliverable and makeable. And there's no way I would have set out trying to make a 20 million pound first film, because no one would have backed me. But it was very encouraging. That first experience I had was immensely um, encouraging, because it meant that I knew producers would back me. They like my work. And being the writer also helps enormously when you're dealing with actors, because actors really want to know that their director is on top of the dramatic substance of the story. And it's wonderful when you're able to talk in depth with actors from a position of very great knowledge. They feel a confidence then, because there's no one that knows that script better than you. Which I think sometimes with a lot of films where there's just a director for hire coming in, they might well not relate to the material in the way that the writer would have intended, and they might miss things if they're not. Sometimes there isn't um, a strong connection between the writer and director, or sometimes in the case of a lot of Hollywood films, things are rewritten so many times that it becomes a sort of pudding that no one really knows was the original intention, and the film can feel very formless as a result. So being the writer of it, you know exactly what you want, and you can talk about it with great authority with actors, which they find really reassuring and satisfying.
So being both the writer and the director isn't a matter of, should we say, economic necessity? particularly so with the score, because it's a comparatively low budget movie.
It's a low budget film. I mean, economic necessity for the film, it will have saved the film a little bit of money, but not a whole lot. Not enough really to make a difference. I think it's more a matter of the practical the practical side of it, which is that you can get on with it and do it. And there's likely to be less chance of having to do reshoots or having to rework it in post-production, because you know that it works. You know what about it is that worked for you, and so you can hold on to those things. There's going to be less wastage, so you know the elements. Although you still find when you've shot a film that there's a lot of scenes that you might think, I didn't need to write all of that, because actually it's clear but from something or other. But I think there's a lot less wastage if you're the writer of it and you've done a reasonably tight job of it, and a lot less danger that something will be missing.
So having made your debut as a director, firstly, how does it feel? And secondly, are you going to do it again?
It's immensely satisfying. It's a lovely feeling, and doing it was just enormous fun and satisfaction. I mean, incredibly difficult and fraught and frustrating at times as well. You know, it's an incredibly challenging thing to do, but with the right people around you, it can just be enormous fun as well. And you know, I had an amazing cast, I had an amazing crew. Everyone was just so on board with it. And one of the lovely things was how everyone who got sent the script, the first people that the script went to, sort of top choices, all said yes, 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 you know, wow, one after another, which is lovely and something I'd never experienced before, and really felt very satisfying. And yes, I would love to do it again. I mean, I think I'd be crazy to have put myself through that just for the one-off. But
not got anything specific planned then?
I do. I know I have another project now that I hope will be the one, and I hope we'll be doing it with the same team of producers and anyone else on the crew who wants to come back and do it again, and the actors, the cast as well. It'd be lovely to work with those guys too. So I have another, and it's another sort of genre bending number, so it's again will be quite distinctive and dare I say unique.
Fingers crossed then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been
great
to talk to you. Thank you.